and welcome to what I guess you could call a bit of an experiment and a definite one-off. This is something that I will probably never do a second time. But this is obviously completely off the cuff, so expect a lot of uhs and derailed trains of thought and so on. But this is kind of a half what's going on in archive land kind of video and half how the sausage is made kind of video, particularly with regards to Archive Annex, youtube.com/Archive Annex, which is where I post stuff that I cover on Archive in its entirety, unriffed, unnotated, a lot of commercial breaks, that kind of stuff. So anyway, I go through these. It was starting with the more updatey kind of stuff. It seems like once a year I'll have a period where I'll have maybe 2 projects that I have to indefinitely put on the back burner because things just aren't working. I'm missing a part and so on and so forth. But I'm at, I believe, 5 of those right now. No matter how you slice it, it's a record breaker. So for starters here, I got another reel-to-reel deck, and this was really meant to be more of a moldy tape cleaning unit, but I'm a little reluctant to use it for that reason now, and if I can ever get it working enough again, I'll do a Ben's junk on it, but there's an Akai GX220 down there, not the 220D, which is much more common. I had no idea this was such a rare deck. I probably wouldn't have picked it out for a would-be moldy tape unit otherwise. But anyway, it needs, at the very least, a counterbelt. But it's one of those deals where you have to take off not just the front of the machine, but the wheels and all. And I don't think I'll even get the camera properly down in there. But I cannot get those screws out. And I've already kind of messed up the rubber. It's probably not going to show up too good even with the camera in low light setting. But I've almost stripped 2 of those screws. They are just truly in there, and all the liquid wrench in the world ain't doing it. So I was trying to get it from the rear, and it just wasn't happening. So that's on the back burner. And otherwise, it is in pretty much working order. I'd like to do the main belt as well, but this is one of those designed by an accountant sort of deals. But anyway, really, there's only been one success lately, and maybe it's because it's the only one that I did not fix myself. So you may or may not know that the MG1, Moog MG1, had a dead oscillator late last year. And so I wound up sending it in for repair, and they did a couple of little mods for me. So now I've got an extra octave to play with, oscillator 1 and oscillator 2, and then on the back, as opposed to RCA phono jacks, they are now 1/4 inch. But yeah, it's not really enough to justify another video. But hey, it works again, so I can maybe finally use it again. And yeah, I guess I ought to spill the beans here. I do have a, well, this is now my second D-VHS deck, but my first to be D-Theater capable. And I've had it for quite some time now, but this is what's been holding up the end of my History of VHS series. So hopefully I've got a working transfer method now, hopefully. I'd like to end this season with that. And hey, I found some, you can't really see it from the top, but I got my hands by some miracle on a couple boxes of proper 3M N95 masks. And I have not been able to do moldy tape duty since COVID hit. And so, of course, when I was able to get my hands on some of those again, I jumped on it. So at least I can do that again once I get some sort of workable thing. Now here's another failure. So I've got, well, my notepad and such on it. But it's another Super Beta deck, but this was going to be just a moldy tape unit because it has other problems. But one of the gears in the tape transport gave, so I can't even get tapes in and out of it right now. So I'll have to either try and find another gear or, God forbid, try and figure out how many teeth there are and what size it is and have one 3D printed. So here's another one. I've been using this a bit lately, Yeah, told you there'd be flubs. This is a Vitionix Mx1. I needed a good aggressive external time-based corrector, so I picked one of these up, got a good price on it, and I totally forgot about all the other stuff it does. So I was going to make a video out of it, and another piece of gear that I have that can be used in tandem with it, but I am missing parts for this, so this obviously will be on the back burner for next season. Got another top secret project here, which is intentionally covered in towels, but if I can get that to work, it's going to be a bit of a breakthrough for me. So yeah, just things aren't really working the way I'd like to right now. So anyway, it's been trying to fix stuff up a bit here and there, and trying to stop everything and do, I call them my Dennis Norden episodes, after the British comedian, writer, presenter, where I'm more or less just hosting montages and talking about them a bit. That's kind of what I've been stuck with, it seems like, lately. Anyway, so the big purpose of today's video is I want to, since my whole day has been shot down the tubes with all these projects that just aren't happening, I thought I would just bring you along with me, so to speak, for a couple of videotapes, Archive Annex candidates, and I'll almost guarantee you they will be duds, but just so you kind of know what the process is like. So we'll do one beta and one VHS, not necessarily in that order. So I have a few K60s, the really early 1975 to 77 beta tapes, and beta. So I've been wanting to take a look at those, but I don't know if we'll even be able to go through those, and I'll get to that in a bit. And I've been chipping away at these 3 boxes of, speaking of early home video, certainly mainstream stuff, VHS from RCA. These are the original 1977 era VK250s, and there's also a VK125 or 2 down there as well. And the VK125 is what came with your RCA Selectivision VHS deck back in 1977. So anyway, I guess we'll just try and go through the process here. Hopefully I won't stumble too much. But what I normally do is, of course, I check the tapes first to make sure they're not moldy. So there's a little dust on this, but that is not mold. That is on the outer plastic. See, went away. But I normally like to give these a full fast forward and rewind. So if they start squealing on me, I know that it's going to need baking. But none of the 3 beta tapes I've got here are sticky, or not sticky, moldy rather. And these are indeed the original real deal. They have the full Betamax word on there, so as opposed to just the Greek B. So this is truly an original 75 to 77 tape. So anyway, I guess I better turn on the power strip that runs these things. And some people will deride me for using this, but I have my own little method of making sure that things like leaders don't get broken. Not that it doesn't happen sometimes, especially with the VK250s, but anyway. So my camcorder will probably be an absolute blur for this, but let me turn on the power strip. And we'll set this for fast forward. Now, I've never had any problems with the leader, so to speak, at the end of a tape. It's always the beginning. So it's not squealing on me. Got some motor noises, but that's kind of normal for this Mustang unit. I think this thing's from about 1984. And I guess I'll take a cut while this finishes. Good. So put into rewind. So what I do is I'll rewind it in here most of the way, and then I'll put it in the regular VCR, because I think the reason a lot of people don't like these amongst the tape collector community is that there is no slowdown. There's no soft rewind, so to speak, or fast forward. So my way around that is let the VCR itself do as little of the work as possible, but you know, I can get a good, nice, even wind here. And this isn't even the tape we're going to be starting with. Like I said, I think I'm going to start with the VHS, because there's been a definite pattern with the VK250s here. And that is a whole lot of Cinemax from 1982-83. So not the infamous Cinemax, but the much more, I guess you could say, conservative Cinemax. And really very boring Cinemax. When the breaks between movies are there, they're incredibly boring, and it's like watching the same one over and over. But anyway, I guess I'll take a cut here, and I'll just finish showing you the process, but then we'll sit down and we'll try and look at some tapes together, just two of them. And I have no idea what's on these things. They're not labeled, and we can only pray that it is not pornography. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop that. I think that's most of the way done. But these are all very cryptic K60s here. They have just generic numbers on them. So no, nothing to say what it is. But anyway, probably should have brought the flashlight with me, shouldn't I? And then this one's kind of funky. I always have to hold the tape down, otherwise it'll just spit it back out. So let us rewind. So far, so good. The dangling wire is the lavalier that I'm wearing right now. And I guess if we wanted to, we could go into counter mode here, if I remember which one it is. There we go. And of course the autofocus on this thing's a horrific joke. So I could have definitely left it in the rewinder longer, but since it was half played already, the counter wasn't going to do me too much good. Usually something like a K60, aka L500, will give you a perfect 1000 on the counter, at least on my rewinder. Okay, so we'll have that ready for later. But let me do the VHS off camera, and we'll take a look at that baby together. So just for the heck of it, I brought out the VK125 from this set, but I am not going to make that the one we use as a test tape, if you will, because this entire set has note cards with the contents of the tapes in them, and they've proven to be like 95% accurate so far. And if the card for the VK125 is right, it's going to be too hot for YouTube. So just in case you've never seen one before. Anyway, this is the one we're going to be looking at, and something tells me it's going to be more dull Cinemax footage. But very recently, I had another tape with Clint Eastwood's Any Which Way You Can, the sequel to Every Which Way But Loose. So guess we're gonna get the original here. And I've never cared much for either of those movies. We got a good Eddie Rabbit song out of it, though, I guess. Otherwise, what is it? Black Hole and Hot Lead and Cold Feet, and something that got scribbled out. As one would expect, some of the fragments of stuff that got recorded over is a lot more interesting than the final product. But anyway, the 250 is ready to roll here. And I've got my usual little setup here, so I always keep my iPad with me when I'm doing this stuff. so I can look up anything that I might need or try and pin down a date or whatever. Just something nice and handy. And of course, post-it notes and a pen. So let's get this going. And all right, here's our tape. An original RCA VK250 from the late 70s, possibly very early 80s. Unfortunately, these got recorded over several times. And oh, I smell more Cinemax. All right, let me lock this thing down and I'll turn on the camera at choice moments. So we're at a big time angle here, and let me put this into fast forward just to make YouTube happy. HBO and Cinemax used very similar graphics in the early 80s, so what I had just identified as Cinemax is actually HBO. I'd say this is a recording from about 1982, if I've seen enough of these things by now. Certainly this batch of VK250s has been proof of that. And this is about the point where I would actually be stopping, looking up the movie on IMDb, how long it is, and just hitting the fast forward button. I have tried to just go through the movies. Once in a while I'll even watch one if I have the time and the interest. And let me adjust that camera slightly, get everything in the shot. So this is probably the third copy of Every Which Way But Loose that I've encountered over the years, and I want to say it's an hour 35 or something. It's a miracle I remember some of this stuff sometimes. So I'll get it up to maybe what I perceive to be the last 15-20 minutes of the movie. I'll pick it up and we'll take a look, see if there's anything from between movies intact. And I tend to hit stop first, I should note. Just in the name of not having any tape whiplash, I guess. You know, so I'm fast forwarding right now. I'm not just going to go and hit the rewind button, you know, because with old tapes like this, you want to try and make sure you don't do anything to damage them. And they're in some degree of rot already, invariably. And, excuse me, I'm going to need to clean the heads on this VCR very soon because I've done like 10 tapes in the last month from this batch. And they're not melting or anything, but these early VK250s have a way of leaving a lot of crap on the heads, so I'll have to take it out. And I'm just using, as you saw, my basic VHS for this. I'm not using my transfer unit. This is I've shown this before. I've had this one. I am the original owner of this one. I've had it since 1999, I guess. Manufactured in about 98. So I will come back to you if this movie ever ends. Now, I almost always leave the counter on when I do this, so I just know where I'm at in the tape. So a VK250 is the same as a T120 2-hour tape in SP mode. These have all been EP, if I can make it happen there, SLP. And hopefully I'm not tempting fate here by letting this play out. Oh, wow. Okay, Moulin Rouge. That could be bad. And yeah, I think I'm gonna have to turn that off. We got nudity. That happens. So we'll pick this back up when I figure out where I'm at. Okay, so we've just cut into our next movie, another HBO recording from about the same time. And I have the volume kind of cranked right now. But the audio head on my deck needs cleaning. I can tell it's just pure mud anymore, even by the standards of something this old. And I have seen these HBO things far too often. It's cool to some people, but to me, once HBO went 24 hours in, I guess, 81, it lost its luster as far as I'm concerned. So let's just see what we got here. The black hole. So yeah, it's accurate. So once again, we're at a point where I would be looking up the movie, how long is the movie, and just taking another shot at it. So as I predicted, this tape is most likely going to be a dud. We're coming in the middle of a very blown out HBO promo bit, and I'm guessing by the graphics this is probably 81, maybe early 82. And I swear I have seen this break before. I know I've seen promos for Up the Academy with Tom Poston before. Jerry Lee Lewis again. Boy, this is really blown out. 82, according to that. Okay. Now, there is an error that occurs sometimes. I think I figured out why it's blown out. There is an error that occurs with the HDMI converter that I run to this VCR. So I'm going to have to go and unplug it and plug it back in. Or better yet, just plug it right in to the TV itself, which is what I think I'll do. I mean, even just the numbers are a little blown out. It's a little design flaw in the AV2 HDMI unit that I use. So we'll just cut out the middleman. All right, we're going to directly composite in now. The reason I use the HDMI converter on this is that my VHS deck does not put out the strongest signal, and it'll drop out a fair amount. But yeah, kind of the same old HBO graphics that you can find several times over on YouTube. And yeah, it was hot lead and cold feet, Don Knotts. So we'll fast forward to the end of that. A lot of these tapes have 3 movies on them, but they'll clock in at only maybe 5 hours, SP or SLP mode rather, and the rest of the tape will just be blank. They will have not have filled the tape up with anything. But I do find the odd end of tape gems, so maybe we'll get lucky here tonight and we'll find that. The Archive's definition of get lucky. So HBO decided to run a half-hour block of D Company cartoons and one little live-action short afterwards. So do we have a break here? Next on HBO, Kill Again. So the name of the game winds up being, is it complete? And, or is it, worse yet, is it one of those ones where it just goes right into the next movie? And it looks like that's exactly what we're getting. Usually these HBO ones follow a certain pattern. And yep, and it's the smooth jazz version of the HBO bumper. So yeah, this is, unless there's something really cool at the very end of the tape, these are the tapes that just kind of get filed away and never seen again. All right, we've gotten to the end of the tape here, and I'm not even going to run anything from it. It was just more movie fragments. So we had a fragment from Woody Allen, Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex, and it seemed to be a sex theme. Then it was a chunk of, what's that, Les Seducteurs. It's an anthology film, I guess you could say. And it was just Gene Wilder's bit in which he plays a guy that sodomizes a sheep. And, of course, implied. Yeah, just in case you thought everything Gene Wilder ever did was clean, which we all know it wasn't. I mean, at the very least, Blazing Saddles and all those. Still love the guy, though. Anyway, so this is a tape that I would call a dud, and one that will most likely just get filed away. Now, sometimes I might give them away, but in this case, since the 3 boxes of VK250s I showed you a while back are all of the same lot and a numbering system, I will probably just wind up keeping them together and just only ever drawing on the gems and having it take up a nice bit of room as well. So anyway, let's take a cut here and I will pop in that beta K60 tape. Hopefully that's a little better, but at the same time, this was kind of the height of commercial cutting and stuff like that with those really early beta adopters. That was just the norm back then. So I don't have my hopes too high, but at the same time, I found some of my all-time favorite things on K60s. So yeah, let's take that cut. I forgot to mention, just as a quick note, even if I've already got a card with the contents, or a slip of paper or what have you, I always write my own copy down. So I always wind up with something like this, some absolute horrible scribble. Now, if I think the tape is good enough, I'll go and write up a much neater copy. But this way I have a truly accurate list of what's on it. So, okay, now we'll get to the K60. And the Dutch angle extravaganza continues here. All right, I've got the ancient beta K60 tape in there. There is no on-screen stuff with this particular model of beta. Most of them don't. So I'll have to try and keep an eye on the counter from a distance here. But let's get it going here. Okay, so I saw kind of an audio burst from the VU meter on the deck. And it is still counting at 0 even though the tape is playing, so that tells me we've got a stretch of unrecorded tape here. So let's just fast forward a bit. Okay, now we got the counter going. Okay. I have no idea what this is. But, oh, okay, I think I know what this is. Alright, I better stop it before YouTube gets on me again. So what is that? A funny thing happened on the way to the forum. So we'll pick it back up. With these, I usually do a proper actual watching fast forward, certainly if there's no identifying marks beforehand. And we'll see if there's any commercials or anything on here. All right, so I've discovered two things about this tape. I've got it in slow-mo right now. This was recorded in at least 1977. It's in X2 mode, B2, and hopefully it doesn't drop out too much because we got an on-screen ID here, even though the commercials have been cut up until this point. It is from WTHR in Indianapolis, and I don't know much about that station, so I'd have to look it up. Maybe I can expedite the process here. There we go. WTHR, Channel 13, Indianapolis. So we know that much. So now the hunt continues for some commercials or other IDs. Let's see what we come up with. Okay, I found another identifying mark here. Let me slow it down. We get the start of the ABC, I believe it is, Sunday movie break bumper in here. There it is. And so this station was, according to Wikipedia at least, ABC up until 1979. So that would put the recording to no later than 79. I'd have to go confirm that bumper, but it looks like ABC from what I've seen of that period. But otherwise, this person was truly a compulsive commercial cutter, which, as I said before, was kind of the norm back then. But nonetheless, we will go through. And I guess there's an upside to this in that the movie is an hour and 40 minutes, I believe. And so if they cut out all the commercials and the network was running it straight through, uncut, just with commercials, that would leave us a potential 20 minutes still in X2 speed at the end of the tape. Or maybe we'll get some original X1 stuff, only 10 minutes of it, but you never know. Well, there's another one to add to my list of failures, and I don't think my camcorder is going to focus too good. Sort of. So it turned out to be nothing more than that commercial chopped recording of A Funny Thing Happened on the way to the forum. There was assuming it stayed in X2 speed, there would have been another 25 minutes worth of potential record time afterward, but whoever had this did not use it. So I guess I would call this a close but no cigar tape. You got an off-air recording, local TV, and all that good stuff. But, a split second of a bumper and an on-screen ID doesn't really amount to much. So I guess that's one more for the failure pile. Having a lot of those lately. Anyway, hopefully this fills you in on how some of the behind-the-scenes stuff works and kind of the heartbreak of tape collecting and all. But as I've said before, not just here, that one good tape makes the 10 crappy ones worth it. And so I just seem to be in the middle of the run of the bad tapes. But I do have some that I need to transfer that I have deemed keepers for Archive Annex over the course of the between-season breaks. So you're certainly not going to go without new material to the Annex this summer. Anyway, that is it for tonight. Hopefully you liked this little experiment. I'm not too sure how well I liked it. But yeah, it's a change of pace, if nothing else. I'll talk to you again soon.